this Saturday morning, first Saturday in April. We're moseying on through this year to 2025. It's seems like we just got started and now we're in April. So that's just how it works, and before you know it, we'll be talking about New Year's, but we're thankful for being here at this stage of the year. So glad to have you guys who are on the calls this morning and joining us this morning. For all of you who will connect with us online, we truly appreciate your time, your energy, and just your thoughtfulness and participating in the Mastermind Call of the Dream Makers Network. And for those of you who are on the call for the first time, we welcome you. It's always exciting to have new folks on who may have heard about us from someone who's participated in the call, and really just being in a position to want to share or even connect with folks who are working on really the purpose of personal development. And that's anytime we talk about this is we've been hosting this call now for 12 and a half years, focusing on personal development in this network. And it's just always great sometimes folks don't have a clue as to how they even what the call is all about. So it's always cool to see when people stick around. It didn't drop it off, especially in this culture of, swipe left, and 40-second sound bites. This is definitely time to take a second and pull away from the way of the week and all the things that have really demanded your time and attention, your mind and your energy, and take that second and reinvest into your own life, and reinvest in your own life for the purpose of personal development. Especially for those of us who are parents, as Dwayne just shared in his, the work of being a great parent. There is also time and an opportunity for us to go inward and to really assess what we're doing. Where are things from an emotional, spiritual, physical, mental, where are we individually at this stage of life, regardless of your age, regardless of what's going on in your life? Are you able to even feel comfortable taking a second to look within and to identify what's going on with me? How do I feel about where I am relative to the things that you've identified that you want to get out of this life, the things that you believe are part of your purpose? And it's always interesting when we have that conversation about purpose. There's some folks who you mention the word purpose and it completely sends them in a tailspin. Say, I don't even want to touch it. Don't even bring up purpose, because there's in many ways a conflict with someone trying to identify what they are here to do, that they are not just a speck in this grand scheme of people and things on earth and throughout the universe, but that there is a unique objective for that individual person, that there is a unique objective for you. I can tell you, I've had that conversation with several people who said, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? There is no such objective for me, little me, in this grand scheme that we call the universe. And I can confidently say that that's not true, that there is definitely an objective. And we can look at just our past life, things that we've done up to this point, that a decision that we made led to other things happening. Just a cascade of things that happen, and things built and lives created, all because of a decision that you made at some point in time. And so we shouldn't look at that as kind of a happenstance, that when we came into this world, that there was something for us to do, other than, suck up the air that's in on earth and eat up somebody's food. That is not just the core objective for you being here. And so it's worth taking time to have these types of conversations, to connect with other like-minded people who are willing to have these conversations. And especially for the folks who are on the call now, whereas the majority of the folks who are on, as I see folks jumping in here, have been a part of this network for almost 13 years and hungry for more as it relates to really being in a position to pursue purpose in a way that is uniquely lined up with your heart, your mind, your spirit. And I say we may as well keep that rolling. we may as well. I mean, if we've taken the time to to do the things that we believe we're here to do, that we may as well continue doing it and do it into the last breath. And as I share with you guys all the time, if you do it on purpose, then it becomes beyond your lifetime. That work will have inspired somebody else. And long after we're gone, the decision that you made to do something, to make a difference, to change a paradigm, to I think about my grandparents all the time, and they made a conscious decision to build a family on the values of Jesus Christ. They made that decision. Now, they could have decided to do something else. It could have, my grandfather was a quartet singer, so he could have easily said, you know what, let's go and start a blues band and we can create a legacy of blues musicians. It could have been anything, but they made a commitment and built a family that would help them in that. And my parents and aunts and uncles in our generation and the next generation, and we can kind of look at these layers of a foundation built generations ago. And we all have that power. We all have that capacity, and it's important to think about that, to at least, even if you don't actively have these types of conversations with family members or friends, we can take time on this call just to, unpack some of the thoughts that you may have around your purpose and your actions, the decisions that you make and the consequences of the decisions that you make. The good, the bad, regardless, we can, and I would hope that this has become a safe space for folks to feel comfortable enough to say, I can share those thoughts here, because the objective here is to really stay as lined up with purpose as possible. And I think about that because, what if we didn't? What if we woke up every day and did not believe that we were here for a purpose? What would that look like in your daily objective? And I think about that sometimes, not a lot. Sometimes, just for the, for academic purposes. But when I do, it definitely is scary, because I run into folks who are so quick and ready to give up, just give up. Maybe I don't belong here in this life. Maybe my time, whatever I needed to do, it's been done, and nobody cared anyway. Who's going to care if I'm not here? Like it's like an open door for the enemy just to come in and completely just set up shop and put all types of depression and worry and doubt into your mind and your spirit. And once that happens, it's a conversation around purpose becomes so far away from your reality. Like, man, why are you even bringing that up right now? Like, it's like, because the enemy is set up shop and said, this is where I live now. And I'm going to feed your brain with all kinds of foolishness that has nothing to do with the goodness and the God-given traits and gifts that you have. and how you can be a blessing to somebody else. There's some people who on a daily basis, just the essential person that they are adding value to other people's lives, and they don't even know it because the enemy has snuck in there and said, yeah, I'm here now, so think about this. I need you to think about this. And I would just say to you, everybody who's on the call, it is important for us to have these opportunities to double down on what it is that God has given you, and just really, heighten yourself in gratitude. Because when you do that, when you come across someone who is going through their situation, when they are in quote unquote their valley, when they're going through the lowest of low situations, you can have that opportunity. You can connect with them in a way that no one probably has ever done. I think it's worth us knowing that sometimes you can have a conversation with someone and that no one ever in their life has ever taken the time to invest in somebody else's life. And I think we can't take that for granted. And so I just highlight that just for us to, be thankful for these type of opportunities to recognize the blessings that we have. That is that not only for us to be able to recognize the God-given blessings and gifts that He has given us at birth, and that we have been willing to actually exercise and use and fine tune and put to work. It's not just laying dormant in your mind and in yourself, but you're actually using those gifts to add value to this community. That in and of itself is worth being grateful for. And so even with that, to know that you can use those things and those gifts and those traits to add value to somebody else's life, somebody who may not have had the same road that you have. And that depression, worry, and doubt may be a constant roommate with them on a daily basis. And to be patient with people as you invest. And we go through this life just sowing seeds, as we talked about a couple months ago, that it's not about convincing people, but it's just about sowing the seed and just being an ambitious sower and committed to the work of sowing seeds. And so for those of you who are seed sowers and proud seed sowers, look at this as an opportunity for a pit stop, for you to gas up, if you will. Stop at the gas station and refuel, because I know for ambitious seed sowers, we all need some time to refuel. And I am a living witness to that. There are times when folks who are committed to the work of sowing seeds and adding value to people's life on purpose, not happenstance, not maybe, but wake up in the morning looking for somebody to connect with. There are times when you need to say, fill my tank, because I want to do more, but I don't have it in me. So I'm thankful that you're on the call right now so we can fill the tank, because there's so much work for you to do and continue to do as you continue to live out your purpose and objective in this life and beyond. So I'm so thankful. Again, I say all these words because I'm truly, truly thankful to have you on the call and have this opportunity to reconnect again. Look forward to hearing from you on the call this morning. Well, I think about, I sent out the note yesterday as we were preparing for this call to focus on crisis leadership. And, this is, I think that this is a perfect conversation for us. When I say us, these folks who are on the call, the folks who are not new to personal development, there are moments, in life when people who are who stay committed and connected spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in the community, people who are doing the work every day. I'm here to tell you that now is your time. I was having a good conversation yesterday with a good brother here in Baltimore, and I had seen him in a while, and he's one of the special African American investment managers in this region, and he said, "Man, how are things going in wealth management? And this, the markets are down 2,000 points. Like, what are your clients saying?" I said, "Listen, man, this is our time." A year ago when we were talking about strategies and you should do this and portfolio management, maybe you should try all these different things and to add value to your portfolio. They were like, "Oh man, things are good. Look at my stock. I'm up, double digits right now this time last year." And now you take a look and say, "Hey man, can we revisit that conversation you had last year about reallocation and rebalancing?" Because, markets are down, fear is in the markets, fear is in politics, there's all types of stuff going on. So folks are like, "Oh, whoa, now it's time to do something." But I always hear, we think about folks, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And I had a meeting yesterday with a family, and they were looking at me in the eyes, like, it's an older family, and it's like, it's a lot of stuff going on, man, and we're concerned, about our money. And it felt really good to be able to outline a strategy that we came up with 7 years ago, 2 presidents ago. Well, back to the same president, actually, now we think about it. But, that was at that time in 2018, looking at 2025, to be in the process of forecasting then about now, and all of the rebalancing, all of the new funding, new accounts, and making sure that the assets were being invested in a way that was structured for preservation and longevity versus accumulation and ride in the ride, investing in the volatility of the markets. That was done 7 years ago. And so to be able to take a look at their position versus where the market is now, it is a blessing to reflect on. We have to always think about the future and be prepared for crisis. Be prepared for those situations, those issues, and when they come. And right now, the situation where everybody collectively is going through it, from a financial perspective and even from a policy perspective and all of that. But there are those moments when it seems like everybody else is doing well and 1 or 2 people aren't. You say, why is it that everybody else is doing well and I'm in this situation? And my situation is not good, whether it be financial, whether it be spiritual, or in family and community, whether it be in business. And I think it's important for us, and I want to really stand tall on how we communicate this to people on this call and folks who are always preparing themselves for what's to come, is that we need leadership in this moment. We need this is the time to truly unpack. And if you were kind of thinking about, how do I handle, or should I do this or should I do that? This is the time to really double down on what it is that you believe that you're here to do. I had a conversation with a young brother on Thursday, and we just talked about some of these topics. But I think it's one of those situations when you make a decision to really grow in whatever it is that you've committed yourself to. If you've said, I'm starting this business, or I'm going to expand my business, or I'm going to deepen the relationship with my family, but that's kind of rocky, or, I'm going to actually take a deeper relationship with God, or whatever it is that's standing in the back of your mind that you have kind of waited to do. You haven't made that full commitment. This is the time. And it's not just about you. Yes, it'll be a blessing to you because this is something that you've always wanted to do, and you've said it to yourself over and over again. And I probably should start doing, we've all have it, right? I probably should start doing this or that, but I'm just saying from a timing perspective, this is it. Because if you do it now, not only will it be a benefit to you, but it will be a benefit to others. Dees, how can you say that? How do you know that that's the case? Especially if what you're doing is for the purpose of personal development. What folks don't realize is that the power of personal development expands. So again, you could be well-intentioned, just focus on. You could just give an example. Brother Mitchell tells us all the time, when he's in the gym and he's focusing on, getting his mind, his body right, and nutrition. You could just go in there really focused on that. But the energy that is being created, the thoughts that's being created while you're working on yourself, all begins to be of support and of benefit to other people. And before you know it, you have these new circle of folks who are in your life that weren't in your life before this process started, because you have now attracted other like-minded people to match your vibration, to match your energy at the moment of you making a commitment to strengthen and take yourself to the next level. It's just going to happen. It's not even something you have to think about. You don't have to strategize about it. Okay, if I do this, maybe I can connect with that one. You don't have to worry about it. It will happen. So why not? Why not make that commitment to double down and investing in yourself, and then taking that and having a core objective of why you're doing it? And I'll tell you, it's so worth it. It's worth being, when you think about the thing that you do, not what other folks are doing, but your thing, the things that you've committed yourself to every day, the industry that you're in, the people who you reach, all of that whole space, it's worth you doubling down on that, and being a go-to resource for that. And to know that when somebody comes to you and asks you 1,000 questions about the thing that you do, that you're going to be able to give them clear, transparent, valued information, and you become a resource in that market. We need that today. I was listening to Barack Obama yesterday, and he said, listen, the only people who can fix this, and he's talking about this meaning the current, government and political situation, he's like, is you. He's like, there's no savior coming in to fix it. There's no one person to say, okay, now we're going to support him. No, the only people who can fix it is the citizens, the voters. And as long as we have that opportunity to do that, that's the only way you can fix it. And, I think, I don't know if it's the stories that we read as kids growing up of the superhero movies or whatever the case may be, that we're just waiting for this, somebody to come in on a pale white horse and just fix everything. But the responsibility is within us, and I think, and that goes back to what we talked about earlier, that the power of being able to take what you do seriously and become that valued resource in your community, in your network, in your family, relative to what it is that you have committed to. And sometimes it's a situation where, I had a conversation the other day with someone who was It's been in their mind, but they haven't committed to it yet. It's they have all the God-given, faculties and gifts to do the work at a high level, but they hadn't made the commitment to it yet. And that's the piece. If are we willing to commit to something and do it at the highest levels and make that kind of commitment? And my question is, why not? It's why not? Because that's my bigger objective is why not? Especially during times of crisis and challenge. Yeah. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. I apologize. I need to interrupt you because I don't want you to move from that point right there.
Please.
I am in a time and space, and my time here is brief because, of course, this is my military weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But you talked about commitment and why people get stuck. And for myself, my own personal journey, I was there for years and years and years. And I had it when I was in my 20s. I was ambitious. I jumped in. Then I got comfortable. Then I jumped in again and did it. And then I'm going to say within the last 2 years, I got stuck again. But then the only way out for me was to identify the why am I stuck. And so one of the things that helped me, and this is for anybody who's in this situation who, are fearful of committing to something that is going to take you to the next level, and it's going to take you to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I got a coach. And we broke down. Okay, if anybody's ever heard of the Clifton Strength Test, I took that. It gives you all of your strengths, right? And I understood what my strengths were, but I've taken that test before, and I'm like, okay, I'm an achiever, I'm this, I'm that. I knew all these things about me, but I didn't know why I was these things. And so understanding the science behind why I'm an achiever, why positivity is one of my strengths, why developer is one of my strengths, took me back to childhood. Once I unlocked that, I made a commitment, and I've been running ever since. Because I understood why I was stuck. And I think that you asked that question about why, commitment, if you know this thing is going to take you to the next level, what is the problem? And sometimes we are stuck behind something we don't even know is hindering us. And so this thing, man, if I can encourage everybody to go to Gallup and take that Clifton Strength Test, it's a whole course. You can do all that stuff online. It will break stuff down to you. But the seasoning or the cherry on top is just having a coach to get you through it. And I've talked to different people throughout my life as I was going through different things, but nothing unlocked it like this. And so this was just my little input on an aid to anybody who is stuck, anybody who has the blueprint in front of them, has everything in front of them, the resources, all of that stuff, but just are afraid to take that next step. There's a science behind why you're afraid to take that next step. And you need to find it out, because as soon as you unlock it, it's like the chains falling off the door, off the gates. You bust it wide open and you just go. And so that is my input. I can go more into detail with you if y'all want me to.
I love it.
And I can even give you my coach, who is the bomb. And she's a Black female. Not that race has anything to do with it, but somebody to understand on my level and to give it to me on my level is completely, because I've done all these tests before. But if you don't have the right teacher and you don't have the right coach, it's a new point. Like, okay, I know all these things. But what to do with that information matters. And sometimes you just need something different, a different approach. And it's amazing the difference it makes.
Wow.
Okay, that's my spill. Somebody can use that information.
Listen, this is powerful stuff, man. It's so interesting. I'm on Gallup right now. I had never heard of the Clifton Strength assessment. It's funny as you were talking, and I just typed in CL, and then all of the AI started listening, and it popped right up. Like I was like, okay, all right, but it popped right up, and this is amazing. And I'm gonna share this with the group, at least this Gallup Clifton Strength resource here. I've never heard of this, but I think it's probably worth everybody, doing the assessment. This is definitely, I'm going to pop this into the chat, and then I'll send it out to everyone too. When you get a second, just take a look. But I appreciate that. It's so, it's so, that whole piece around being stuck, especially as it relates to the fear. And just yesterday, I had a conversation with someone who was like, I pray to come out of I pray to be healed, but the fear, it's like the fear of being healed from something that you've dealt with all your life. What does it even look like? What is that? How do you even address it? How do you live now? And I was like, that's the beauty. You have to get excited about what's on the other side. you have to get excited about not being stuck.
But if you imagine if you understood why you have that fear, you can go back and conquer it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a big, like, just uncovering some things. And then the sweet part about it is, once you unlock it, you can teach it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And you can heal a whole nation, one person at a time. And it's like, wow, we go through things. And people say, what doesn't kill you make you stronger? If you don't understand why you went through it, because it can kill you slowly.
Yeah.
And make for an uncomfortable life.
That's right.
And so that's ignorance. That statement is pure ignorance. And it's not enough truth in it.
That's right.
So I'm telling you, if you guys want a good coach, you take that test, you want to understand it. Because don't just take it blindly, because you're going to know, okay, these things pertain to me, and I know that, yay, I got this information. But until you get down in there and start breaking that stuff down, and I know everybody comes to a point where they're stuck. I've been there multiple times. And for me, it seems like I took the scenic route to get to a different place and space in my life. And I'm like, why am I going through all of this? Why do I have such compassion for everybody else? Why do I want to make everybody else comfortable? Why do I hype everybody else up? And I have all this energy, and God told me one day, that's my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, but I needed to work for me. Like, why was I put on this earth? And, why is it all about me encouraging somebody else? But then I had to unlock, the whys behind it. And so early on, you talked about the onion, and peeling back and peeling back and peeling back. Sometimes you can't do that by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes love is blind has a different meaning to me. And this is a part of my personal story. It's kind of deep.
Go for it.
And it's kind of heavy. never understood growing up. I would tell my brother and I fought a lot, like a lot, like hard fighting, relentless fighting. We fought like it was a part-time job until my mother got home from work. So there was an hour and a half between the time we got home and the time my mother got home. And he's older than me. He's 3 years older than me. And so, of course, physically, he's stronger than me. And he made me tough, that's for sure. And in my mind, I charge it too. Well, you made me fearless. And my brother feels horrible about it. But the reality is people would always say, oh, my God, you guys fight so bad. Like, you guys fight. Like, it's horrible. And my sister, I didn't realize what it was doing to her. And so, I would tell my brother all the time, like, dude, you made me fearless. You made me fearless. I can walk into any room and have the confidence, whatever. But at the end of the day, I take this strength test. I talk to this coach, and she asked me, she said, what time do you get off from work every day? I was like, yeah, like 4:30. After 4:30, I'm done. Like, I don't have the energy to do whatever I got to get done. I have to get it done before a certain amount of time. She knew about my brother and I fighting all the time. She said, what time did your mom get home from work? She said, around 4:30. She said, so at 4:30 you could rest. And you have taken this with you throughout life, because every job that I've ever had, I am not working past 4:30. Like, even if the hours go till 5, I always put it in place. Don't schedule me anything after a certain time, so I could be done at 4:30. And I've never, ever, like, I knew I wake up early because my parents would never let us sleep late. And so I'm consistent about waking up in the 5 o'clock hour. But it was mind-blowing to understand I can rest at 4:30. And then there are things that I need in a relationship, and protection is one of them.
Yeah.
And she said to me, your parents knew. They just chose not to do anything about it. And so the little girl in you just desperately wanted to be protected. And I was like, oh my God, because that's a deal breaker for me. Like, I can do all things. I can do a lot of things. I can be this person. I could do that person. But at the end of the day, if my significant other doesn't protect me, it's like I don't have use for it. Like, it's just a heartbreaking thing. And so I'm like, I never thought about that. I never thought about it. Like, they knew that we were fighting every day, and nobody stepped in to say, stop. And I'm like, no, I just wish you would have asked me one day to raise up my shirt. I always had bruises because I bruise very easily. But he did too in my defense. Like, I'm like, I can't lose. I gotta keep fighting. I can't lose. So I was the most competitive in sports. Like, I was the most competitive in academics. Like, in high school and college, I didn't play sports, but I did go overseas and play. And even now, I'm like in the military because I don't know, it was something about being in certain positions, authoritative positions. But the point is, I never looked at it like that. It was always charged to, oh, kids fight, you know. And it even landed me in the hospital with my shoulder. My shoulder's dislocated. It's always been dislocated since I was 12. And so it shifts in and out. And she said those words. She said they knew.
Wow.
They knew. And I'm like, oh, crap. Because I defended them. That's the love is blind piece. Like, they love us, but they chose not to see certain things about us. Like, he was physically harming me every day.
You ever ask your mom about this?
And I mean, it's a new. We talked about it after I had the coach, but
yeah.
And she, accepted or whatever. And even my brother, it was just You guys were crazy in that house. Like, it was wow. But my sister's 7 years younger than me. She's 10 years younger than my brother. And she would be put in another room so she wouldn't see us fight.
Oh, my Lord.
We ourselves protecting her.
Oh, don't let the baby see this.
What we didn't take into consideration is she could hear everything, and her imagination ran wild.
Oh, my Lord.
And so it caused her anxiety in life.
Yikes.
It caused her major anxiety issues. And so it has impacted her on an adult level. So I said all of that to say, once I started peeling that back, and once I started, breaking up the foundations of certain things, it lifts some things that you just didn't know were weighing you down, like some weights that I had no idea was weighing me down. It's not even something that I thought about on a regular basis as far as my brother and I. Because my brother and I, like, we have each other's back. Like, if I said such and such is messing with me and there's a guy, he handled it. Even as we were kids, this was something, he was a protector, but at the same time, in his mind, he was making me tough.
Yeah.
I don't know what his story was, but it worked. Like, I could go, and not bragging on me being such a rough kid, but I never understood certain things until we started unlocking these things. And to bring it home, I started discovering this about 3 weeks ago. And I understood why certain things broke my heart. And let's go to the strong point. One of my strong points is I'm an achiever. And it's like, I gotta keep doing this, I gotta keep doing that. That's what I thought it meant. But what it really meant was, growing up, I was celebrated for accomplishments as a kid, not just for being. I wasn't celebrated for just existing. I wasn't celebrated. I wasn't, gosh, I just love you so much, or whatever. My parents rewarded good behavior. And that's what I seek.
Okay.
Rewards for good behavior. And I didn't know that about me. I didn't know that's why I was an achiever. And it's like, dang, I did get rewarded for stuff. Like, I got cars for this. I got, dang. And so understanding why if I do something like something big and I come home and nobody's there to cheer for me, it's like, okay. So when I tell you we broke down and peeled back some layers, if y'all don't want this lady's number, I can give it to you. But it's amazing when you start unlocking things, what you can accomplish. You don't have to be stuck. And I don't have much time. I got to go in this building in like the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, this is good.
But I wanted to share that part of my journey with you all. And you can put it in the group. I can put, share with you some information, but I highly recommend it for anybody that want to that's ready to uncover some things. You got to be ready and open. Because you will discover things that you thought were buried, that you completely forgot about, or you completely chose to ignore.
Wow. I love it. This and I'm on here now with on the Gallup on Clifton Strengths. The whole time you're talking, I'm just immersing myself in all of this information. And Tyson, I think you have some experience with the Clifton Strengths as well, right?
I do. I love Clifton. And it also tells you like how you work with other people. Once you recognize who your stuff is, then I've done it with teams and with my board. So we recognize how, because of how other people are and what their strengths and weaknesses are, then how you can speak to their strengths and rely on your teammates, your team strengths to kind of problem solve and recognize where their shortcomings are and how and why they make decisions they make for the team as well. So it's super powerful, of course, to start with yourself, but you get next level when you move into like your teammates and the teams that you're working in, knowing like what their strengths are, and then being able to like coordinate your meetings around everybody's strength, like around strength. So you might give like feedback for the week and say, okay, well, so-and-so, because they're so-and-so, because their ideation, I scheduled an appointment with them when I was trying to brainstorm around this problem that I'm dealing with. Or because this person is an achiever, I asked them to help me think through this award ceremony. So you like specifically call on people's strengths to do different things that are supposed to be team activities and team decisions. It's super cool to kind of do that. But that knowing yourself and knowing what your top 5 or top 10 are, you really start seeing, like Dana said, you're like, oh damn, I get excited about that achieving, because that's when I get awarded. I'm the same thing. I didn't get awarded for just being Santa. So I always had to be doing something. And so my constant doing is the need to get the validation that I'm worth being or I'm worth seeing, because I'm doing and I'm doing for others. At most times, the expense of self. And so recognizing how and why you get things is huge. And it helps you reset your boundaries and reset your expectations, and knowing you're great because you're you. Damn everything else. So if you want to do these things to be recognized, you shouldn't do things to be recognized. You should do it because it's the right thing to do. But let's also celebrate you for just being who you are and all your amazingness for sitting there on a Tuesday. Like, and that's enough, So not feeling enough is why I turned into a achiever, because just being just wasn't seen as a thing. So it's like it's a really dope tool to use and come back to. Absolutely.
Wow. And I've been, I guess maybe about 20 years ago, was exposed to like the Myers-Briggs, and you kind of, and the whole assessment. I think I was back at that time, I was like a ESPI or something like that, but or ESMP or something like that. But this sounds like the next step from that, where it takes you into unpacking kind of the foundations of how you got to those, to those behaviors, or even what we would now kind of call a trait. This sounds like it helps you to unpack why that's the case.
It is. It absolutely is.
I'm going to dig into this a little bit, because I think that it's important, especially from a Dreammakers Network perspective, and folks are really trying to put their arms around personal development. Especially just going back to what Dana said about the science of your personalities, the science of your behaviors. Some people, that's how they, that's just how they process information. And it is worth having something like this. So it's probably worth, I may connect with you guys a little later on this, just to try to, because as I started clicking around, I can see how these different groups have definitely monetized this this assessment. so I don't know if there's a free one floating out there for folks to just kind of get their feet wet, but this information is worth it, and to be able to do something on a mass scale to give as many people an opportunity to participate is extremely valuable. So that's what I'm talking about, man. Y'all put us on, y'all educate us. This is very good, and can be definitely used on a number of levels. I think it was you, Ty, talking about how it works well with like a board for an organization. And I'm sitting here thinking about a couple boards who could use this right now. So I'm like, yeah, tell me more. Let's see how we can implement this, to help calm the waters, if you will, with some of these organizations that are in crisis, if you will. This is good. This is good early on. And thanks for sharing that as well. I'm going to share that out after the call today. Well, listen, let's take a second to open up the call. I know we have opened up the call, but I want to, just kind of collectively look at this whole topic of what we've been going on, what we've been doing, and crisis leadership. But then at the same time, this Clifton Strengths has really gotten me kind of fired up, because it's when we're out here in the trenches, if you will, connecting with folks on a day-to-day basis, and you hear the challenge that folks are going through, and it's just a lot of things that have not been unpacked, and it usually stems from from our early understandings and our foundation, and that whole, what we talk about is from 0 to 20, those first 20 years of our lives, that what happened during those times that supported you, what happened during those times that has held you back, and how do you go? I don't know if it was you, Tysana, or Dana, that mentioned to go back and address it at that 8-year-old self, that 12-year-old self, maybe even earlier. And that's powerful stuff, to be able to, take where you are right now, but make a decision to get on the other side of fear. But sounds like to me, for some folks, to get on the other side of the fear, you have to go back and address where the fear started. And that's powerful stuff. I mean, that's real. I'm glad that you've kind of highlighted this, because, from a very personal perspective, I think back to when we started this network, and when Paz first kind of reached out to me about Your Wish Is Your Command and some of the books that he was reading and things like that, I didn't have a lot of hesitation. Like, I'm always kind of skeptical, if you will, like, okay, let me do a little, what is he talking about? I haven't heard about this kind of thing. But once I either read one book or listened to something, there was something inside of me that was like, hey, this is for us. Let's go. Don't fight it. Right. And so I say all that to say there's always been a certain level of optimism that I've carried that has more to do with, I think it's going to be better on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Like, so which means that now the question is, where did that come from and all that? I don't know. I mean, I think this Clifton Strengths may help to explain that. So I'm definitely going to dive in. But I say that to say there's a just kind of an innate optimism where my mindset says it's going to be, if we keep doing this, if we keep on this path, it will be better on the other side. It's one thing for me to say that and then have that type of a conversation with someone who does not see the world the same way. They may see, like, what are you talking about? What gives you the assurance that if I keep doing this, it's going to be better on the other side? I don't believe you. And that's just the truth, right? There's some people that I need facts, right? And whenever I run into folks like that, the first thing I'll ask the question: do you need to see it to believe it? Or can you believe it before you see it? That's the question I always ask when I get into that kind of a point. And then the folks who are really doubling down, it's like, no, I need to see it. Yeah. And so then I'll come back and have a more of a faith conversation and say, okay, well, maybe my faith not strong. That's just what it is. Okay. But show me the evidence now. Right. And it sounds to me that some things like this would be a great assessment for folks to participate in, to just begin the process of unpacking who they are and how they got there, at least to give them some additional information that they probably have never heard before, and to give you some level to stand on a bit. I think that's important information. And I don't, And you know, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because there are times when I'm having some of these conversations that I try my best to relate to someone who has become overtaken by fear. And because at some point in my brain and spirit, and it's so interesting because I watch my daughter, and even earlier when she was probably like, 4 or 5 years old, would initially say that she was afraid of something, and then make a decision to just go and do it, and just say, well, okay, like, oh no, I'm not going to do that, and I'm like, why not? And then say, oh well, why not? Okay, and then just go and try it and see, and then next thing you know, the fear's over, it's done, and she's doing it. And I remember early in her life addressing fear, and how she addressed it. And I don't know, I can't remember. I was having this conversation the other day. It was like, if I had a time machine, what time period would I go to? And I, after thinking about it long and hard and thinking about it, I said, you know what? I would want to go to a time where I was alive, but I can't remember that time. Like, so my sisters, they talk about, oh yeah, you remember when you was doing this? I don't remember. No. So no, I don't remember. Like my like conversations I have with my brother, like I remember a lot of that stuff. But when my sisters start talking about stuff, I don't remember that stuff. And I would love to just go back to that period and just say, okay, who was this little dude? And how was he approaching it and all of that? But it does, when you start, Dana pointed out a very important point, especially when we're talking about overcoming fear, is that if you don't have the faith to keep going and walk right into the fear to see what's on the other side, then you better have a process to take you back to the beginning of when that fear became realized in your life. Like when you initially decided, I'm going to be fearful of that. It's either one or the other. Well, I shouldn't say it's one or the other. It's either you have faith and go through it. You have some type of process that takes you back and addresses the core of the fear, or you just stay stuck for the rest of your life. And that, she used the word stuck, and I like that word. So, or you stay stuck. And we know a lot of folks who are stuck, who've made a decision, I'm not going to do one or the other. I'm not doing either one of them. I'm just going to coast out this life as long as it's going to give me stuck, and try to make the best of a life I can stuck. Right? So, and we all have a decision to make, to follow either of those paths. But it's important to have this conversation, and at least put ourselves with options to make a decision. And so this is like, I can tell you right now, this will not be the last topic on these Clifton strength assessment, because I'm going to take a deep dive, and looks like Tysana may have shared the actual one that we need to use. So let's dive in. But let's open up the call. Anybody have any questions, comments? Talk about what's been going on the past month, challenges, successes. Like, let's open up the call and dive in. We'll open up the call now.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Wayne Mitchell here.
My brother.
Hey, I'm not sure if that was Dr. Dana that talked about having a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Dana talked about having a coach, earlier?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just want to, I don't have much today because I don't sound like a broken record, but I just really want to say congratulations. I'm extremely happy and proud of you. I think we spoke about this last summer, at least I spoke about it last summer, actually 2 summers ago, about having a coach. That to me is a very important thing. It doesn't matter where you are in your life or what's going as your goal, but if you are looking to better yourself or better your business, find that
service is provided in high. Access code accepted. There are 6 participants in the conference. The recording has started. Please announce yourself.
Hello?
Yep. Sorry about that. Had to drop off. Sorry about that. Brother Mitchell.
Yeah, not sure. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Had a slip of the finger and hung up.
All right. I guess I don't know if anyone heard me then.
No. I heard you and then it hung up. So sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, but no, that's it. I'm just happy to hear that people are looking for that extra coach motivation, that one person or multiple people, such as this foundation, to get us over the edge, coach-wise. With that being said, personal here with me, we are starting a foundation, Soul, the company, Exchange of Life, and everyone knows health fitness, and now we have our license for a dispensary. We actually have 2. First one's going to be opening up in July of this year. Second one's going to be hopefully first quarter of next year. We actually purchased some real estate in Baltimore City and right down South Charles Street and Tuttle Hill. We're going to call that the Palace. One in Montgomery County, we're going to call that the Penthouse. But what we're doing is we're having a foundation that I believe I'm going to lead. And our mission statement is buy a soul, feed a soul. So any product that's purchased, whatever state or community you're from, we would donate a meal to the local food bank. Obviously, our goal is to help assist with work, but we really want to focus on kids, younger kids who are in less fortunate areas. And for me, it can be those kids who are geared towards the athletics, geared for sports. So hopefully that should be going off towards the end of this year as well, and looking for a strong impact in 2026.
Wow. I love it. Well, let us know what we can do, man, especially as you get the foundation launched and contribute and support. Come to events that you guys have going on. And I was really interested in just, especially when Dana mentioned, having a coach specifically along in whatever it is that you're working on, whether it be business or personal development or physical development, as you've been in. And I know that's an area that you have, within the past, say 5 years, have really doubled down into. And from your perspective, how have you approached that from a coaching perspective, like being coached? And at what point did you realize this was what you needed to do to bring a coach in to help you to get to the next level physically?
When I lost 25 pounds within naturally, organically, lost 25 pounds probably within 6-7 months, something like that. Yeah. So I've been doing, I've been working out myself, this and that. But when I got the coach and when he, put me on a nice workout plan, that was about, between 4 to 6 days a week. And we talked about what I was eating and talked about, just what's needed to fuel my body.
Okay.
When I saw the weight just drop off when I'm now fitting into my old suits that I wore in 2015. And those pants are fitting better, the shirts are fitting better. That really was the light bulb for me. That was the switch. And then just, what was that book by Napoleon Hill?
Think and Grow Rich?
Was it Think and Grow Rich? Yeah. And one of the things it says, you don't know what you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Was that one of the?
Yeah.
You don't know. And that was my thing. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I always stepped back and thought about, going in powerlifters, they do this, blah, blah, blah. But having this coach, because he was on the stage as a professional bodybuilder, powerlifter, and he played actually water polo in college. So, and he's a coach polo. So just knowing he knows the whole dynamic of nutrition and different workouts that help get your body where you need to be. And the next thing you know, the weight, everything just fell off of me. So for me, it was that point like, shit, I thought I knew something playing sports out through high school and D2 football and everything else, but no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know. So yeah, but now I'm on a different track of doing the shredding part, and I had to step away from the coach for a little bit because he's going through some other stuff where he's rebranding and he's doing some other things. So he said, hey, look, I got to scale back out of my clients. I'm like, no problem, but he gave me another platform. He gave me some information that I can stick to it. So he's still coaching me out. He's still helping me out. But yeah, and actually through the foundation, I'm going to work with him and his company that he started to work with. There's like 5 or 6 other coaches. So they have a full nutritionist, they got full bodybuilder, full a bodybuilder coach, powerlifting coach, and like a speed and agility coach. And then they got physical therapists, like I said, nutrition. So hopefully towards the end of this year or third, fourth quarter, the Soul Foundation, we're going to team up with those guys as well, so we can get those products out to their clients. And like I said, every product sold, we're going to donate a meal to a local food bank.
Wow.
So you asked the question of what I need. If anyone out there, where hopefully people across the country, part of this network, if you guys can connect me with local food banks in your area, that would be great. Start building those relationships now. Yeah, so that's about it.
Oh wow, well, we can definitely do that.
Yeah,
in Florida and as well as in throughout Maryland, Central Maryland.
Yep.
Okay, no, I love that.
Yeah. So we have about we identified about 10 different food banks in Maryland. So we're set in Maryland.
Okay.
Actually, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia. I want to start with the surrounding areas. So Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, Virginia, West Virginia, Carolinas. Carolinas and Georgia. So I want to start with the Mid-Atlantic and then go south and north as well. And then eventually I go west.
The good part is that if you're working with, like a food bank that's a part of a national organization, then you can just kind of partner with the chapters that's throughout the country.
Right, exactly.
And so and just be able to leverage. Oh yeah, we're working with the same your sister organization in Baltimore. So that's probably a good way. So more of creating a national partnership. So yeah, no, definitely. I'll send some. Just think about some of my old clients up in that area when I was working in Pennsylvania and Delaware. So I'll send a couple leads to you.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
All right. Brother Mitchell, always keep us lined up, man. The to-dos and the progress. I love it, man. I love it. All right, let's take a second. Let's open up the call. Anybody else have any questions, comments, what you're working on? How can we support? Well, let's do it. Let's dive in. We'll open up the call now. All right. I wanted to share with you. I don't have it with me right now because I'm in Baltimore, and so I don't have my books right here next to me. But I have been reading over the past couple of weeks a book called The Black Cabinet. The Black Cabinet. And it is essentially about, and it really actually starts back to the time of Teddy Roosevelt's administration into Howard Taft's administration, and essentially ending after Taft, really. But how that those early administrations in the early 1900s, relative to the African Americans who had the ear of the president, and it starts around when that term, the Black Cabinet, was created. Was during Teddy Roosevelt and Howard Taft's administration, and who were the folks who were part of that. And this was essentially during that time, it was, Booker T. Washington and, the machine that they were creating and working with the administration. What's interesting about this book, though, the core of the book is really focused on the next 20, 30 years after the death of Booker T. Washington, and how the Woodrow Wilson administration and Coolidge administration, how they were like, we could care less about a black cabinet. We don't even want to hear what anybody who thinks they could aid us on supporting the plight of black people in this country, because we don't. Your plight is what we tell you to be, and that was really the tone and tenor of those administrations, and that led into when the stock market crashed in 1929 and the rise of FDR, and it's so, and this book, and I'm still reading the book, and so it's, and actually we're kind of relatively early. I hadn't even made it halfway through yet, but it is one of the things that has stood out in this book so far is from a lot of times, like in this generation that we're in right now, it's like when you're talking to people who are, even I will even say, age 60 and under, it's always, you hear statements like, I've never seen anything like this. It's never been worse, or it's never, like all these things about when we hear about what's going on right now politically and in community and all these things. It is so important, one, to know our history. It is so important for us to know our history. It's important to do two things. I would say I'll prioritize one over the other. It's important for us, and particularly, I think all Americans, but definitely Black Americans, but all Americans really need to not shy away from history, and not let history be, sugar-coated or whitewashed or whatever the case may be, to make sure we can put everything into perspective. Because when you read this book, I mean, the realities on the ground were just beyond anything that we're experiencing right now. I mean, you have these African American leaders who are trying, and they're leaders in their own communities, but they are purely insignificant in the eyes of the government. I mean, we're talking about, especially after the death of Booker T. Washington, and you're getting into like who were the Black leaders at that time. And let's say it this way: who were the Black leaders at that time that the white government establishment would remotely listen to? Who were the ones who were trying to compromise, if you will, to bring both branches together? You had folks who were completely anti all things that the government was doing and white folks were doing against Black folks. But who were the ones who were saying, okay, we got to meet in the road somewhere so we can begin to get something passed legislatively and get some things happening for us? And there was a very quiet spell for a solid 20 plus years, until we got into the FDR, the New Deal. And what's interesting, this book really is about the big promises of the New Deal in the first term of FDR, and the Black leaders' work and the stresses and strains of trying to prove to the administration that the New Deal was not helping Black people. And it was, and just to even highlight some of the things here, you would have quote unquote well-intentioned policies that would say, we're going to help, the farmers in the Black farmers in rural America. And we're going to send an additional, let's just say an additional $100 per worker to those farmers. Well, those farmers never saw the money, because you need to have a good character white person who's actually leading the operation there to make them to give the money to those folks. These guys are making 10 cents an hour in the 1930s, 10 cents an hour. And they're supposed to go home and raise their families. And I mean, I think it's just so important for us to, in this day that we're in right now, to really value and be thankful for what we have, and to recognize what we're fighting for. I mean, there's a lot of things happening that is actively trying to change the norms that we are used to. But there is a playbook out here. There's definitely a playbook that we can access and to make sure that, one, we completely understand, where we are and what's going on. And two, how to strategize and prepare for the future. And, it seems like every day, we're in a situation where someone else is, concerned about either arguing about the political state, arguing about the economic issues and layoffs and all that, arguing about the attacks on, affirmative action, DEI, and black folks, and the plight of Black people in this country. But when we think about where we've come from and how we learn from those lessons that helped us to get here, it's interesting. There was a part of the book that talked about the early stages of designing policy that led to, say, 30 years later, the 60s and early 70s, of what we now know as affirmative action, when they were trying to even introduce language that would have some type of support and creating levels of equality and opportunity for African Americans to integrate and be a part of the socioeconomic system in America. And it was just the conversation of it, the fact that it was even mentioned it was the hammer down, like, why would you even bring something up like that? Why are we having these conversations? And to see now that in some cases, we're actually being revisited to say we should have never had anything like this in the first place. It's important to be able to capture where it started, how it benefited, and just kind of the results of it, and then where we are and where we're going. And this period of time when we talk about crisis leadership, in many ways, it has to do with the people who can transform, and I should say transfer, the emotions of stress and frustration into strategy and progress. How do you transfer that energy? Because the energy is there. The energy is there, especially for folks who, when I get phone calls from clients who will say, they just gave it, I lost a contract there. My job is possibly out the door. My sister lost her job. We don't know where to begin, the whole nine. Just even having the conversation is stressful enough. Then the whole objective of how do you take that energy, that frustration energy, and begin the process of organizing, planning, prioritizing, and then acting on those plans and objectives. It is a necessary work that we have to do, but it's work that a lot of people hadn't come to that realization yet, and not even knowing where to start. And so I want to just say to everyone that, that we have resources out here that can definitely help us recognize and kind of see a playbook that has been used to overcome crisis-like situations, to have successful outcomes in the middle of a crisis, and to highlight the traits and the characteristics of the folks who actually, how did they get to the point of leading through the fire and leading an organization, a demographic of people who were infighting? Because we know, especially Black folks, there's always some crabs in the bucket. And it's interesting, the part of the book that I'm in right now, as you have this now, the beginnings of what is becoming the new version of the Black cabinet. It's that at this point in time, it's starting to form again, but now you got the infighting. This one isn't Black enough. This one is more conciliatory, and all this jazz. And the part of the book that I'm in now is the introduction of Mary McLeod Bethune and her role in not only taking on and accepting a role within the administration and her relationship with Eleanor Roosevelt, and how fond FDR was of her, but her ability to really recognize the strengths of every person in that Black cabinet, all the Black folks from the different factions and divisions that they were in, the strain and stress that they all felt, and to be able to speak to that, which brought calm, clarity, organization, and prioritizing how to approach the next steps. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and I should say, to listen to and read in this book, because especially if you try to put yourself there when you're reading some of these period books where that take you back in time, it's a blessing to be able to point to leadership especially during times where everyone was either fearful or had given up, or as Dana mentioned, they're either stuck or scared. And a lot of the folks, and when I think about some of the people who are on the Black cabinet, there were some folks who actually had the right methodology to I hate using the word compromise, but to work with an administration who could care less about Black folks, right? To create some margins of progress. And they had the right strategy, but they couldn't lead the other people. They couldn't lead the other members of that cabinet, because the other folks were they didn't respect them. They didn't respect their ideology, their process, and the whole nine. So I'm excited about this book in terms of what we're learning, and what I should say I'm learning. Some of you may be, historians and understand some of the details of Mary McLeod Bethune's leadership, and throughout the stages, and in this, I'm familiar, growing up in Central Florida, with her work with the college, and with Bethune-Cookman College and now university. And you hear of her work in the government, FDR's administration. But this point of leadership around being able to have the respect of leaders on both sides, and what level of commitment had she made, and what was her approach, and being able to access the details of her focus, if you will, at that time, knowing that folks were still being hung and parties were happening to hang Black folks and use them as target practice, and have young kids watching it so it can be ingrained in their psyche and their mindset. Those were different times, and I'm sure there's some folks who would love to get back to that time period. But in moments like these, we have to connect with those who figured out a way to lead through crisis, to lead through challenging situations, and who were not fearful in their leadership. And I just think it's been so far. I mean, it's definitely been probably the so far the best book I've read in almost 2 years. And I think primarily because of the timing of it all. But it's just, especially when there's a threat every day. Just earlier this week, when you hear about the governor in Virginia, worked with the school board, the state school system, to remove, a lot of the Black leaders and information from the school books. So it's not taught, and was celebrated. So this is a transformational time, but it requires transformational approach to understanding and connecting with those who led through other challenging situations. And this is just beyond. It was a great book. I highly, highly, highly recommend getting it. Definitely get it on Audible. So you can listen to it as you're driving and going back and forth from work and everything. But it's one that will keep you on your toes, especially as you get into the challenges of those periods. And one thing we know about FDR's administration, which is unique in its own case, because he was one of those presidents who was able to stay president past the term limits. And I would tell you right now, we are facing that with our current president, because his folks are actively working to make sure he is a president that can last beyond the term limits. So the context and the timing of this book is very real, and it's helpful in gaining the information and the leadership on that. So I wanted to share that with you. I think it's a great resource. Please, get the book. If you have any questions or comments on that, please do jump in. Let's open up the call. Anybody have any questions or comments or want to dive in on any of these topics before we finish up for the day? All right. I know I want to make sure that folks know tomorrow that we have Purple Honey tomorrow at La Familia. Purple Honey at La Familia Soundstage. 4 o'clock, I believe it starts tomorrow. So if you haven't already gotten your tickets, we do have a Dream Makers table. So if folks want to join, we do have a Dream Makers table. So just shoot me a text, say, hey, I want to come, and I'm bringing somebody. Just let me know, and I'll get that information over to Paz and Care so they can get you guys on the list. But definitely come out to Purple Honey tomorrow at 4 o'clock, La Familia Soundstage in Baltimore. It's going to be an awesome time as usual. Our brothers are just, it's a beautiful thing when you go over there and see what's been created from all the way back when we were building and, doing our Engage events at different locations, and then the times at Magoobies. And so to see that there's a resource, a place, a venue that is as beautiful, soup to nuts, all tricked out. It has just all the tech and just the layout, and to see these guys working every day is just in so many ways a dream come true. And we want to support them and put as much time and support into them as we build out this Purple Honey experience at La Familia. So come tomorrow at 4:00, La Familia Soundstage. All right, folks, that's all I got. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Looking forward to connecting with you guys. And if you have any questions, comments, also, if you want to lock in some time, go to dreammakersnetwork.org, dreammakersnetwork.org. It's just to schedule some time to talk through what you're working on, thoughts that you may have. Haven't had a chance to connect on the call today, but let's definitely lock in some time just to talk through whatever you're working on. We're looking forward to connecting with you guys. All right, have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next call.